But if you really think from the flip side, and if you are actually born in a world, let's say, with alternative housing options, would you question it? Probably not. Hello everyone, this is Ronan Blue, and just taking my daily walk here today. And today's topic would be on would buying a house or building a house be cheaper? So lately I've been seeing a lot of shows on this very topic, and it's kind of interesting to see, just out of curiosity. I mean, would it be cheaper just to buy a home or to build it? And what I found out was it really varies, and that totally makes sense. Of course, in the majority of cases, the average person would go about buying a home just because it's a lot more convenient. So they don't mind dishing out $300,000 to $1 million for a home. But then, what is the actual cost of actually building a home? Obviously, you got to get some help to build a home as well, which will cost a bit more. For those that already have that skill set of building, just have to buy the materials, and also choose the place where you want to build it as well, and whether or not it falls within the legal rights of building that home in that particular spot as well. But interesting enough, it's actually very much possible to build your own home for $100,000. It's actually been said, with all of the building materials out there, it's very much possible to buy a single home if you wanted to with that amount of money. So if you think of it from that perspective, it might be well worth having to build your own home, and maybe spend a little bit more if you don't know how to build a home, for a professional to build it for you. But of course, if you do decide to build your own home, you're gonna have to find a place to build that home. So in some cases that would probably be more expensive, depending on which state you want to build it in. So, but there's actually been some studies on this, and they found that to buy a plot of land in some places, it only costs like $20,000 to $50,000. So it's actually less than the cost of building the home. And if you don't have that much money, there's also the option of getting land loans as well. So you just buy that plot of land and you just pay a bank till it's all paid off. There's actually certain loans called construction loans, and other than an actual loan, it actually acts more like a line of credit. So as long as your intent is to build a home and on top of a particular piece of land, then you'll be able to qualify for it. But you can essentially use that loan to pour a foundation on it, or to buy construction material. So, but you also have to show them your plan of what your home is gonna look like as well, to overall qualify for it, to see whether or not it's within the zoning rules. But there are certain building materials or items that you have to install that's quite pricey. And one that's very expensive would be the septic tanks that hold like 1,000 gallons of water. Now you're looking at just an installation fee of $6,000 if you do so. But it's a good sunk cost because, well, you need water, so it should be part of your cost overall. And once you get it installed, it'll last you for decades. But you also have to look at the heating system as well, which is quite expensive as well to install. But if you live in a place that's warmer, let's say, then you won't have to worry about that, because you get to choose the location you want to build your home. So you can factor in the climate in those areas. But of course, the variable to whether or not it becomes worthwhile to make your own home would be to either do it yourself or to hire a professional. So there's a lot of people who can work on contract, and they obviously compete with each other to see if they can do the work for you. So you can shop around as well, but if you have your own skill set there, sometimes YouTube has some resources as well where you can follow to make your own house. and to make improvements as well. There's also prefabricated homes as well that's already set in place that they build in these factories, and they just bring it over to you. So those are actually less expensive as well to have delivered to you on your plot of land. But there's also A1 frames as well. But obviously if you're looking to build a mansion, it's going to be a lot more expensive than building a smaller home. So those costs are very variable as well. But in most cases, if you do decide to build a larger home outside of the city there, the land will actually be property tax will be a lot cheaper for you. But the A-frame is actually quite popular with a lot of people, just because it has this loft style to it, so you can build up other than across. So, but whether or not it's expensive or not really depends on the amount of how large the dimensions will be for your home. But another reason why A-frames are so popular is because they're pretty affordable overall compared to other building methods, and that's why it's actually growing in popularity and could be a good alternative to cheaper housing. But for those who are super adventurous, there's also the concept of the tiny home as well, where you have these little houses on top of trailers, where you can connect them to your car and you pull them around. So some of those tiny homes are only about 200 square feet, which is plenty of space for those minimalists. It's enough space to have a bed and a kitchen and a washroom. So, and you basically just travel around and you have the freedom of the roads, I guess. But some people, might feel a little bit claustrophobic within a tiny home. But in most of the cases, if you do adopt that kind of lifestyle, who knows, you might not even spend your time inside the home either. And what's great about the tiny home is you can pull it to places that are warmer. Like, you don't have to stay in one area that's really cold. Like you can travel south during the winters and travel back north when it gets warmer. So it's really up to you. So in each one of those places, you'll most likely be spending your time outside than anything else. And there's actually a lot of companies that actually build the tiny homes for you and deliver it right to your doorstep. So you can start your retirement that day once you receive your tiny home and start pulling around North America. So you can freely travel and visit all the places you've always wanted to without worrying about accommodation. But you also have the option of living off the grid as well. But by doing so, you have to find ways to create energy and get water and maybe even food in some ways as well. You can grow your own food. But setting up solar panels, for example, is pretty expensive to do so. But there's some states that actually give you a tax credit for setting up solar panels, which is pretty nice of them to do. But the initial cost could cost you like $15,000 to just set up those solar panels. You can also set up generators as well, so you can keep those running, and it's a good alternative to creating some energy as well. And you can also have wind turbines as well to create that energy there, just by simply utilizing nature and using wind power for your energy needs. So there's a lot of different alternatives, green technologies that you can use to for your daily living. So to answer that question about just buying a home or building a home, and whichever is more expensive, is very much variable, and it really depends on the size of home that you decide on building. I mean, you can build really tiny homes if you wanted to, like those pull tiny homes on wheels that are pretty inexpensive to have built and delivered to your home. And a lot of different variables, such as where you want to build the home, on what plot of land you want the home built on, and also utilities as well, like how you're going to utilize those green technologies that I just mentioned. to see if you can cut costs down. But a lot of people are choosing that lifestyle, and people even go as far as maybe taking the route of just getting a van as well, a van dwelling. I mean, that's actually been around for many decades. But all of these alternative housing methods that I speak of may actually become a reality of a lot of our future generations, especially with normal housing becoming extremely unaffordable for the average person. Like you see that a lot of the younger generation or millennials are living with their parents a lot longer, and that trend is growing not only in the United States but also globally, because it's actually just becoming terribly expensive for the average person to be able to afford housing. And if you look at the overall job market, it's confusing. A lot of people say that the economy is getting better. A lot of people saying that the economy is getting worse. But if you look at unemployment and if you look at the stagnant wages, all of those factors in combination with AI and automation replacing a lot of people's jobs, and a lot of those people have to transition into other industries. All those factors involved, it hits our society overall quite significantly. So that's why alternative housing would be definitely something of an option for a lot of people to cut down their costs, and it might become something of a growing trend in the future. The whole issue with the alternative housing movement is that it's difficult for a lot of people to downsize their lives. Like we're all exposed to what's on the media. In order to have a happy life, you need to get that big home and those 2 cars. But if you really think from the flip side, and if you are actually born in a world, let's say, with alternative housing options, would you question it? Probably not. It'd probably take a little bit of time to transition or to downgrade or downsize your lifestyle. But it is possible if you actually sit down and think about maybe having to live in a van or a tiny home or a prefabricated home or even a tree house. Like it's funny to think about, but how much time do you actually spend inside your household anyways? I mean, if you look at the houses today, they're becoming gigantic, and it's silly because if you look at all of the space that you have, most of the time you're at work anyways. You don't spend that much time at home. The majority of the time you spend is at work, or sometimes on the weekends maybe you spend your time there at home. But why do you need such a large house? Having that large house is just a waste of space, and the larger the place that you live in, the more utilities you pay as well, because it costs more money to heat it. And overall, it's just draining your lifestyle. But if you are ever caught in a situation where you want to budget or save more money, you should consider the alternative housing movement. Some of those options may seem radical for some people, but for others, it might be an opportunity for you to get back on your feet if you have some financial issues. But I think I end my vlog here today. Tell me what you think of which is cheaper, buying a home or to build one. Maybe you have some ideas of your own. Just comment below. If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.